What's up, everybody? Welcome back for another episode of Life and Law with Mike and Bill. I'm Bill.
I'm Mike.
What's going on, brother?
Billy, I got to tell you right off the bat, okay, before we even get started, I got some negative feedback, and it's all because of you, okay?
Oh, boy.
I was with my boys over the weekend, and the one overwhelming comment on our podcast is you're trying to run the show.
Wow.
You're talking too much.
Wow.
I don't get a chance to get a freaking word in edgewise.
Wow. Well, with that being said,
you got to tone it down.
With that being said, shut your mouth and let me do the intro.
Okay, go ahead.
So we got a great show scheduled today, Mike.
Okay, apparently.
Apparently, I'm not going to speak, though, today.
All right.
It's all about you.
Well, maybe. Go ahead.
That is a hot new shirt you got on, though.
Thank you.
For those that can't see, if you're watching along on YouTube, Mike is wearing his brand new GC gear. Is that an Eddie Bauer, too?
It's an Eddie Bauer.
You look good in that.
Oh, yeah.
Gray's your color.
But
anyway, great show today. We're going to talk a little bit about Major League Baseball opening day. We're going to talk a little bit about some legal-related news. Unfortunately, some sad things in the news involving a retired police officer in New Jersey, as well as the tragic death of Dwayne Haskins from the National Football League. And then we're going to bring on our one and only Rich Grungo from Grungo, Colorado, who not only is a great trial lawyer, but is also a guru on the Metaverse, specifically Decentraland and lawcity.com. So
Yes,
he'll
he
be
is.
on shortly to talk about that. And then we're going to end every episode, we're going to end this episode, like every episode, with a Mike Speaks. But today's going to be, clapping
What was
for
that? A clap.
Today's going to be a little bit different. Mike's not angry. Well, at least I didn't think he was until just now.
Yeah, surprise.
But Mike celebrated his granddaughter's first dance recital this weekend.
Yes.
And get ready, because we got a great story about how Mike used to be a dance dad. Looking forward to that. So let's get right into it, Michael. Opening day happens this weekend, and I'm just going to say it. Phillies are going to the World Series.
There you go. Of course. Why wouldn't you? Every Philadelphia fan in the city is saying the same thing. They're going to the World. They might go 162-0.
Well, they lost yesterday.
All right. Well, 161-1.
It's possible.
It's possible.
It is possible. But for those who don't know, you could maybe tell by how obnoxious Mike is. He's a 27 rings Yankees fan. Is that what it is? 27 rings.
Yeah, you don't have to say it like that.
Well, that's how you guys all say it.
Oh, is that how we guys all say it?
Yeah, use guys.
Use guys.
27 rings. But you got to admit, Mike, even though you're a Yankees fan, the Philadelphia Phillies lineup is stacked.
Billy, I don't have to admit anything.
Wow. You see what I deal with here? First you attack me
Why
for
are they
talking.
stacked? What? Tell me. What's stacked? What does that mean?
Their leadoff hitter is going to hit 30 home runs.
Is that right?
Then they have Bryce Harper, MVP from last year. Mm-hmm. They signed Castellanos. I mean, they're set. They are stacked, man. They got Reese Hoskins is going to have a good year. No, they're going to have to outscore everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. How are the Yankees looking?
Yankees are looking good. Off to a good start. Beat the Red Sox 2 out of 3. Toronto coming in.
When was the last time the Yankees won the World Series?
2009.
Man, that's a long time ago.
Who did they beat? They beat the Philadelphia Phillies.
I remember that, too. Cliff Lee kind of blew that for us in that game.
Oh, yeah. Let's blame Cliff Lee.
I don't want to blame Cliff Lee. He pitched very, very well, but that one World Series game, they had it. They had it.
Mm-hmm.
We can't hear you. Lance was trying to chip in here, but we couldn't really hear Lance.
Well, maybe that's because you didn't address him properly. His name is not Lance. His name is Sid.
All right, Mike loves nicknames. You don't have a nickname for me, though.
Oh, I got plenty of nicknames for you.
At least not ones that we'll say. Well, this is an explicit grade, I think, or rating, isn't it? But anyway, Michael, real quick, gentleman's bet. Who has more wins this year, the Yankees or the Phillies?
Yankees, easily.
What's the over-under on the Yankees wins? Do you know?
95.
How about the Phils? I don't know the answer to that.
85.
Interesting. Why don't we, instead of saying who, you made that up?
Yeah, I made that up.
Mike
of course I made it up.
All right, well, we will see. We'll keep checking in. I think the Philadelphia Phillies are going to have more wins than the New York Yankees.
Okay. You're entitled to your opinion.
We'll do a little gentleman's bet. Okay. Something.
All right.
Something.
All right, let's move on.
I still owe you payment when the Giants beat the Eagles.
Yes,
You're
do.
supposed to take me anywhere we want to go. Mm-hmm. Oh, I will say, you just reminded me, Mike, because you like cheesesteaks.
I do.
I went to Giamorella's last week in South Jersey and had their cheesesteak quesadilla appetizer. Have you had that before?
Many times.
Oh, it's phenomenal, man.
It's a great dish.
That is phenomenal. All right. Anyway, so moving on from Major League Baseball, we're lawyers. We always like to talk something legal on the podcast. So crazily, out of New Jersey, there was a case that came out last week a default judgment involving a road rage incident on a retired police officer that resulted in a $1.6 million judgment. Just real quickly, in June of 2018, plaintiff Matthew Lee drove to a local drugstore. He was followed to the drugstore parking lot by the defendants, Silvio Bizzari Jr. Bizzari started a verbal altercation with Lee that ended with Bizzari physically attacking Lee, which caused Lee to fall, strike his head on the asphalt. Bizzari then fled the scene. He was apprehended by police, and then there was a lawsuit filed for his injuries because it resulted in a pretty serious injury involving his brain. And they enter a $1.6 million judgment. Now, at first blush, people think, oh, $1.6 million. This guy's getting $1.6 million. But what we've learned, Michael, is a default judgment is anything but a sure thing that you're going to make a recovery on that money.
That's for sure. Yep.
What do you know, Michael, about default judgments and how they work in the state of New Jersey?
A lot of times they're rarely worth the paper that they're written on, because how do you collect on them? You have the judgment, but in order to collect that money, if there's no insurance to cover it, which in this case there very likely wouldn't be because no one's insuring the intentional act of the assault. So it's a thing that this young man or older man, whoever he is, will very likely never see that money.
Yeah, unfortunately, what we've seen involving these type of incidents is, yes, you take a default judgment, but car insurance is usually there to cover the defendant for what we call negligence. When it involves something like a road rage incident, it's a gray area. It's not always definitive that there's not going to be coverage involving a road rage incident because arguably the intentional act may have resulted in an unintentional consequence. I mean, there's issues that can be argued here. But in this instance, when there's this intentional act that results in an injury, most likely the insurance company will disclaim coverage. And that's probably what happened here because the plaintiff, who's the injured retired police officer, files the lawsuit. And when I'm reading the article, defendants don't even answer it. They don't even answer the complaint. It then goes to what's called a default judgment in front of a judge who will make a decision about what he feels the damages are. And then they enter this judgment. And then that's when the hard part begins. This plaintiff now has to try to collect that judgment. And that's the piece of paper that Mike is talking about. We've done that a few times here. We've had some pretty substantial default judgments. Rich Grungo, who's coming on later, had over a $26 million judgment against someone a few years back. I had a $7.5 million judgment against someone a few years back. And the real difficulty is trying to collect on it. So we will see what happens with this unfortunate retired police officer who was severely injured. But, you know, Michael, road rage.
Road rage.
Never worth it, Mike. Never worth it. Sometimes you get a little worked up on the road.
I do get a little worked up on the road sometimes, I'm sorry to say.
But you don't ever cross the line. It's not worth it.
No.
Take a deep breath.
Most of the time I have you to keep me in line because you're most of the time in the passenger seat. So
I think I actually aggravate you more.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Well, moving on, another thing that happened legal related, and this is just horrible. This is sad. If you saw the news that came out of the NFL this weekend, 24-year-old Dwayne Haskins, who was a quarterback, an absolute stud at Ohio State, came into the league, played a little with Washington. He was now with Pittsburgh. He gets hit by a dump truck down in Florida around 6 o'clock in the morning trying to cross a highway, and unfortunately, he was tragically killed. There's still not a lot of details about what happened, but what we do know, again, it was a dump truck. So what I immediately think of, and you know, obviously this is just horrible for him and his family, but when we look at it from a legal perspective, you know, what recourse does his family have with regard to any sort of civil lawsuit? And there's a lot of questions still, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, one question I have is, what is this young man doing on an 8-lane highway, walking around at, was it 6 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
And from what I heard, dressed in black. So nobody can see him very well. What's he doing there? Why did the car break down? Is he crossing the highway to get help? And very odd, but I'm sure more information will be coming out.
Yeah, a lot more information will come out. Again, you know, we've had similar cases where people have been walking on the road in dark clothing, and there's a lot of questions that need to be answered with regard to the dump truck and how fast they were going, what they were looking at. You know, so we'll get some answers hopefully within the next few days. But if there is a civil lawsuit filed, the first thing that's going to have to be proven is liability. And this happened down in Florida. We're licensed in New Jersey, Pennsylvania. But usually, depending on the state, there's going to be arguments about comparative negligence, which Mike already brought up, is who's at fault here? Is it the dump truck? Is it him walking with dark clothes on the side of the roadway? But what's going to be very interesting is if liability can be proven against the dump truck, is going to be then figuring out this young man's damages, because he's only 24 years old. He had a career ahead of him in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So you're not only dealing with, obviously, his pain and his suffering, but the substantial
future lost wages,
economic losses,
astronomical.
Yeah. And I don't know, Mike, if you saw or not, but was the dump truck a privately owned dump truck, a public entity?
Did not see. I don't know if that information has been made public yet. I don't know.
Yeah, so there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and the reason that, when we put our lawyer hats on, depending on the type of vehicle it was, whether it was a private company or whether it was a city-owned or state-owned dump truck, sometimes there's different rules that may apply. So there's a lot of moving parts here. But, to try to give you guys a little bit of a legal analysis, when we're talking about his economic losses, how do we go about proving economic losses in a case like this, Mike? How do they figure all that out?
That's an excellent question, Bill. We'll have to ask Rich about that one, I think, when he comes on. He's the expert in that.
See, I'm asking a workers' comp lawyer.
You're asking a workers' comp lawyer about damages, which we never deal with. We don't deal in damages.
Yeah, so in our cases, so we do personal injury, the way that we normally would figure out economic losses is you hire an economic expert. And what they do is they take a look at not only their past earnings, they look at what the future potential earnings are going to be. Mm-hmm. They look at their work-life expectancy, which for someone like Dwayne Haskins is probably going to be a little bit shorter as far as an NFL player would have been than, let's say, a guy who's an attorney. Different work-life expectancy. But if he turned out to be an elite NFL quarterback, what are those numbers? Yeah, nowadays with who's the most recent guy who just signed, got Deshaun Watson, got $35 million a year. Yeah, it was like 200 and something million guaranteed.
So this young man is 24 years old. How do you calculate $35 million a year over the next 10 to 15 years?
Now, you talk about him being an elite quarterback. I mean, even backup quarterbacks in the NFL make millions of dollars. It's a very, very tough position to fill in the NFL as a quarterback. So we'll kind of see what happens. But first and foremost, our heart goes out to his family. And it just sad, just tragic, 24 years old. So we'll see if we can get some more information on that as it comes out. But very sad, Michael.
Very.
Well, all right, we're very excited to introduce our guest. Not only is he a trial attorney at Grungo, Colorado, but he is also a guru.
The big guy.
On the Metaverse.
Yes, he is.
So we're very pleased to introduce for the first time on the podcast, Rich Grungo. What's up, Rich?
Let's give him a hand.
What's up, guys?
Mike wanted to give him a hand.
I want to give him a hand.
Go ahead, give him a clap instead, since we don't have the sound effects going. Lance had
there it is. There he is.
There it is. All right. And we got to give our producer, Lance, a little bit of a break. He was extremely sick this past weekend.
Was he?
Yeah, he's coming in today, catching up. So we're going to give him a break on that, Mike.
All right.
So anyway, what's up, Rich?
Hey, guys, what's happening?
All good. So a lot of people always ask, the first question is, what the hell is the Metaverse? Can you give us a very quick layman's explanation of what the Metaverse is?
Yeah, nobody is really sure what the Metaverse is, honestly. The phrase Metaverse means beyond the universe. So it's a very broad phrase. It's actually being defined every single day, and people are stretching it in all different ways. But I think the best way I would describe it is kind of really just an extension of the digital spaces that we're already comfortable in. Online avenues, gaming world, social media, internet. It's really kind of just the kind of progression of that where people are looking for a different experience.
Michael, have you been to the Metaverse yet?
I have. I have visited. I've been to the Decentraland, to the Grungo, Colorado office. I've been to Law City, walked around a little bit, see what's going on in there. It's fascinating.
Yeah, so what Mike is talking about is Rich Grungo, like I said, is a trial attorney at Grungo, Colorado, and we were the first personal injury law firm in the Metaverse opening up in Decentraland back in December, right, Rich?
Yeah, we did start the first office, personal injury law office in the Metaverse back in December, but since then, we've been exploring and we're fielding so many different questions about how we did it, why we did it, where we did it. We saw an opportunity to help educate others and bring others into this world, because like anything else, how do you get experience? By doing. So we've been boots on the ground now for a number of months, and we're experimenting. And this lawcity.com is just another experimentation, but really another opportunity to bring other people into this world, particularly in the legal world. You know, I think I told you, Bill, I was driving the other day thinking about the fact that Decentraland, where we're at, just had Fashion Week. And there was over 60 brands in there. They had over 100,000 unique visitors in Fashion Week, Mike. It was a huge, huge success, but they explored and they tried different things. But I walked around in my avatar, really creative things going on to create an immersive experience, Mike. Trying on digital outfits, Mike. I know that's something you would like to see.
I would like to see that. Nice, slim digital outfits.
Whatever. Hey, Mike, boundless possibilities.
Right.
Whatever you want, you can do there.
You could be whoever you want in the
I can
metaverse.
instantly lose 60 pounds.
Man.
But here's the point. People are going there to look at fashion and the latest fashion trends. Isn't it more important that people have access to legal questions or resources before they have access to fashion trends? So, you know, bottom line is that we see this as the future. And frankly, it's here now as opportunities to create avenues for people to get help legally. So that's where our focus has been.
Yeah, so you mentioned the future, and I know this is a loaded question, but what do you envision the future looking like, specifically as it pertains to the metaverse and individuals? Because I know a lot of our people out there who are listening probably have never been to any of the metaverse worlds, don't have an avatar, probably don't even have a digital wallet yet. I mean, what would you tell those people that they should expect in the next couple of years?
So big question, but there's a reason they're calling this Web 3.0. And that's because it's the extension of the internet, social media, gaming, all coming together, you know, to create, as I said earlier, an experience. So what we're going to see in the future is many more opportunities to engage others, engage brands, and to make purchases. We see it now, as I mentioned, over 60 people or 60 brands at Fashion Week. But if you go and explore, and this is important, there's a common misconception about the metaverse that you need those virtual reality goggles. Not the case. Certain worlds, like the one that Facebook is creating, Meta, sure, work with the goggles. But otherwise, if you went to Decentraland.com, you could walk around with a digital avatar you create and explore. And so we're urging and encouraging people to explore. How quick is it going to take for this to be mainstream? There's barriers, and we could talk a lot about that. I don't think we have time today to go into detail, but there are barriers to access, and some of them are simply just technological barriers. But we certainly know there's going to come a time where this is going to be a lot more mainstream, and we're going to have the ability to say, yeah, we've been here for years.
Yeah, so we've been talking about the metaverse as a whole, and I guess I'm throwing out terms that maybe other people haven't even heard, such as digital wallet and NFTs. You know, what can you briefly tell us about a digital wallet and what NFTs are?
So a digital wallet, everybody's going to have one, you know, so it's akin to a real wallet, except that this is where you carry your, ready, Mike? Digital assets.
Oh.
Mike, do you own an NFT yet?
I do not.
You will.
I know I will.
And frankly, everyone will. So an NFT for our listeners is a non-fungible token. NFT, you've seen, have been all the rage. Everybody's talking about NFTs, particularly in the digital art world, where people are purchasing the rights to a digital asset, and that digital asset is recorded on blockchain, you know, and that's where NFTs are recorded, so you can prove authenticity of it. So NFTs, you know, is a term of art that you're going to be hearing a lot of. Mike, you will own an NFT because all important documents, your will, your deeds, things like that, will be NFTs, Mike.
Yeah, no, I've seen some of these with the what do they call them? The angry monkey or whatever they.
Bored Ape Yacht Club.
Bored Ape. Now, what gives that its value? People are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for an NFT of a bored monkey.
Yeah. So supply and demand. You know, there is a buzz around it. There is a community around it. There's an exclusivity around it. So, you know, what they've created with the Bored Ape Yacht Club, and it was one of the earliest ones, is a community that has value built in, exclusive offers, things of that nature. But the best way when people say, well, I don't understand why someone would pay so much money for a digital asset. Well, I could say the same thing about a baseball card that you think has a lot of value, Mike. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the best analogy, especially because you're a sports guy. For me, it's a piece of, you know, because I'm not a baseball guy, right? So for me, that baseball card you think is worth so much is a piece of cardboard. that someone's willing to pay a lot of money for.
Yeah.
So that, NBA created a company called NBA Shots, where they are selling the digital video clips so you can own. So, a certain game, a certain, memorable play, you could own that for a cost. Now, for me, I wouldn't pay for it, but there's somebody out there that will, Mike.
Yeah.
So the value of an NFT really is, really goes to what someone's willing to pay.
Yeah, it's interesting, Mike, but Rich you said it, and it's true. All of our documents are going to be on there. Like you said, the birth certificate, tickets to probably concerts. And that's another cool thing that we're seeing in these metaverse worlds is concerts. Rich mentioned Fashion Week, but there's also going to be concerts there. The Australian Open did a thing there. All these big brands and all of these big sporting events will probably all make their way into the metaverse within the next couple of years. So if you haven't explored, you haven't read about the metaverse, do it. I've had a lot of people say to Rich or me, oh, it's not my thing. Well, it may not matter if it's your thing or not. It's the future, and the future is here, unfortunately. Michael?
Yes, indeed. Yep.
So, Richie, one more question for you. What would you recommend to our listeners that they do? How do they get familiar? Because if you go on and start reading, your head will spin. I mean, is there any resources or anywhere that they can go to start learning a little bit about digital wallets, or what would you recommend that their starting point would be? Lawcity.com?
Now, the first thing I would say is open your mind. The reaction we get from so many people is they have no idea, they don't understand, or it just seems so ridiculous to them. Well, they probably would have said the same thing about the internet. They probably said the same thing about social media. Frankly, I did. I'm not really a social media guy, but I understand the utility of it. The point is, it's not what you want or what you think. This is what's going on. So 1, open your mind. 2, you have to explore. You are going to need a digital wallet. Get a digital wallet. Research a digital wallet. Look at NFTs. Pay attention to what's going on. Crypto assets, cryptocurrency is happening. And whether you like it or not, whether you think this is ridiculous, it really doesn't matter. This is what the world is coming to.
Yeah, for sure. And Rich mentioned social media. I mean, it really, in its simplest terms, can become a 3D social media. So instead of connecting and communicating with your friends and family through photographs and videos on Facebook, you will be an avatar hanging out with your family and friends, maybe going to concerts in this digital world. It's just going to be completely different and unique, but I'm excited to see it. And anyone out there who has young kids who play maybe Roblox or Minecraft or Fortnite.
That's a big one.
Very similar. And then one of the things Rich told me very early on when he brought up the metaverse a few months ago was check out the movie Ready Player One. And that'll give you a kind of a snapshot of what the metaverse could be in the next few years. But like I said, Rich is not only a metaverse expert, he's also a damn good trial attorney, and he's got some work to do on one of our bigger cases. So Rich is going to leave us now.
Go on, get out of here.
But Richie, thank you so much for coming on. We look forward to talking to you again soon. Maybe at lawcity.com towers into Decentraland.
Maybe next time we'll talk as avatars.
We should do a podcast.
Let's do a podcast as avatars.
Mike, I'm going to hold you to that.
All right.
So everybody, thank you, Rich Grungo. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you, fellas.
Thanks, Richie.
All right, so now we're going to move out of the metaverse, and we're going to take a trip down memory lane. I don't know how long, but how far are we going back here, Mike?
Well, where are we going, Billy?
We're going to a Mike Speaks. So Mike celebrated his granddaughter's first dance recital.
Yes, indeed.
This weekend. How was it, by the way?
It was fabulous, yes.
She's adorable,
Anna
too.
is 3 years old, and this was her first dance recital. She dances at a local studio called ZZ Dance, and it's just great. But I have a lot of experience in this area because my youngest daughter, Adrian, was a dancer at Jazz Unlimited, another local dance studio, for 15 years, and she was very good at what she did. She was in what they call the competition teams. They called it the ensemble. But the thing that got me interested in the backstage work was this, and not to be negative about any of this, but if you've ever experienced a dance recital, simply put, it's torture. To sit there for 3-4 hours waiting for your 4-year-old daughter to come out and dance for a minute and a half, and then try to keep your energy up and stay positive, and and watch everybody else's child do the same. It can be quite a burden. So one of these events, many years ago, I was sitting there in the audience next to my wife and waiting for Adrienne to come out and do her thing. And I noticed some shuffling going on in the wings and said to my wife, what is that? I see something happening backstage. And she says, well, that's probably all the moms and dads who volunteer to work backstage. And it dawned on me, and I said, I'll be right back. I got out of my seat. I walked around backstage. I said, who's in charge? Sign me up. And from that day, I became a backstage worker for the dance recitals. Eventually worked my way up to the crew manager, and I had the golden headset, in touch with the lights and the video people up in the booth, and just ran the backstage area for, I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 years.
Wow.
And it was great. It was great because, I wasn't bored anymore. I had things going on all the time. But the best part was, by that point, my daughter had gotten to the point where she was in, maybe 7 or 8 to 10 numbers during the show. So I would see her every few minutes. She'd come out of the dressing room, and I'd be able to give her a hug and a kiss before she went on stage, and it was great. And we had a nice bond that we created from my backstage activities. Now, my burden and my job now is to get my son-in-law involved, and he's still a little lukewarm, but I'll get him there.
Who's that, Charlie?
Charlie, yeah, he's got to get Charlie going to get back there for Anna.
But let me ask you, you just told a nice, rosy story about this, right?
Well, yeah.
But I know you, and you are a miserable son of a bitch, okay?
All right.
There had to be a time over those 8 to 10 years where something happened backstage where Mike lost his mind. That's what I want to hear. That's what people want to hear. Give me something.
I can't.
You stayed calm?
No, but I just can't tell you the stories. It wouldn't be right. There might be parents who might be a little upset with some of those stories. So I got to keep it confidential.
Yeah, because I know you probably.
What happens backstage stays backstage.
All right. Well, if anyone is interested in becoming a dance dad backstage, Mike is your guy. So that's it. I mean, that's another 30 minutes. These fly by.
They fly by. They fly by, Sid.
I don't like that. His name is Lance.
His name is Sid.
Anyway, as always, Lance, thank you for producing. Michael, thank you.
Thank you, Billy.
And if your friends are listening, I'm sorry if I spoke too much during this podcast.
You did a little better today. I got a chance to say some things, so I think they'll be happy. But I'll let you know.
Life and Law with Mike, maybe? Do we need and Bill?
No, I like it that way. Yeah, Mike and Bill. That's good.
All right. Well, if you like Mike and you can put up with me and you're still listening, obviously you're entertained, be sure to like, subscribe, share, leave us a review. We're on all your favorite podcast platforms. We also upload the video content to YouTube, and you can check out our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn at Grungo Colarulo.
And our...
Oh, thank you, Michael. And to bring this full circle, you could check us out in the Metaverse.
We're there.
We are there. Grongo Colarulo is there, as well as in a standalone office, and we are also in lawcity.com. So you could check out both of those things, and we will talk to you guys next week. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Take care. Thanks.